This
Audio
conference will
and
now be recorded.
mute your audio and hide your videos so that there will not be any disturbance till the end of the sessions. A very good morning to all the participants. I am Anselm Sibi, Assistant Professor of Department of Information Technology. I welcome you all the participants and the speaker of this event to the 5 days online STTP on machine learning. I want to thank the Almighty God to gather all the participants for the day 2 session. And also I thank our management and CSC chapter, Kanjipuram chapter for providing us opportunity to organize this event. And this is our second day of our session, and the topic is Advanced Machine Learning in TensorFlow and Keras. And this session will be handled by Dr. Priya, Associate Professor, PG Department of Computer Science, STNB Vaishnava College for Women, Chennai. Ma'am have nearly 16 years of teaching experience in STNB Vaishnava College for Women, and ma'am's major research topics are data mining, image processing, neural networks, network programming, fuzzy logic, machine learning techniques, and deep learning. Ma'am is now a research supervisor for PhD students under Madras University. And she chaired a session in International Conference in Computing in Loyola College. And with her ideas, she has presented and published nearly 31 journals and articles and conferences. It's my immense pleasure to welcome you, ma'am. Now I hand over the session to Dr. N. Priya. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, it's audible, ma'am.
Good day to all. I express my sincere gratitude to the management, principal, heads of the department, and the organizers in St. Joseph Institute of Technology for giving a great opportunity to share my knowledge in this 5 days STTP on machine learning. And also I express my gratitude to the staff members of other colleges, research scholars from various universities, and students. With the blessings of Almighty, I start this presentation with a very direct overview of what the participants can expect. Okay, thank you all. Now I'm going to share my screen. Please. Ma'am, please share my screen. Put as a presenter.
Yes, ma'am.
Now I switch off my camera.
Vijay Professor, make ma'am as the presenter.
I have made.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Can you able to share the screen, ma'am?
No, sir. Dr. Priya, put Dr. Priya, sir. One more Priya is there.
Yeah. 1 minute more. Ma'am, now?
Yeah. So now I'm having.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah, now I'm sharing my screen.
Yes, ma'am. We are able to see the Jupyter notebook, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now the PPT is visible, ma'am.
And now I start my presentation. Today my topic is advanced machine learning models, right? Actually, in yesterday you have know what is machine learning and what are the models are available and what metrics you are going to use for machine learning model. So everything we have discussed in the last day session, right? So now I'm going to enter in advanced machine learning models, right? See here, these are the topics I'm going to cover for 2-day session. So in the first day, I'm going to give an introduction of deep learning and what are the parameters and hyperparameters that are required for deep learning. And also I'm going to give an introduction about the TensorFlow and Keras and how to install the TensorFlow and Keras. And also I'm going to implement two different data sets. One is Diebits data set and also another one is a fashion image data set. So I'm going to handle the two different data sets and implement in an NN architecture in TensorFlow and Keras. So this is the first day program. And tomorrow we are going to discuss about the convolution neural network, right? And how to implement the convolution neural network. And you compare the convolution neural network with traditional neural network. And also you are going to analyze the metrics. Okay. So these are the two topics I'm going to cover for these 2 days. Okay. So now come to that deep learning. What is deep learning? Already you know what is machine learning and everything. Actually, deep learning is a deep structured learning or hierarchical learning or deep learning. It is a part of the machine learning methods. The part of the machine learning methods, and also it is a subset of the field of artificial intelligence. See, deep learning, it is not a new one. It's not a new concept. Actually, it is a derived version of artificial neural network. You know everything. Artificial neural network was started before 80 years. Okay, so deep learning, it's derived from ANN. Why it is derived? What is the reason? Why we are calling as a deep learning? Because now in our real world, we have an enormous amount of data. It's a large volume of data. So in different format. So now you're handling a graphical data, you are handling a sound kind of data, you're handling a different languages of data. So in this real world, you're handling a voluminous of data. So you need and more architecture. So that is the reason, first of all, you're going to use for deep learning. So you want to make a prediction, you want to make an automation. Okay. So that is the main reason in deep learning today. And another main difference in deep learning, you compare with traditional network, the main thing is feature extraction. It's another difference. Why feature extraction? In the earlier stage, that is in the traditional model, traditional neural network model, or other machine learning models, the main challenge is the feature extraction, because based on the features only, you can classify your data or you can predict your data, and also you can make a decision, right? So that task is also a challenging one. So here deep learning and also that here the programmer is the main responsibility. In a machine learning model, they have to select the features, then only they can apply into the model. So it is really a challenging task. But the advantage of deep learning is here, it is an automation of feature extraction. So here programmer is just little bit is needed, or even though no guidance is also needed for a programmer. So that is a main advantage in using deep learning. Okay. So these are the two main important reasons. You're handling a large volume of data and also you have an automation of feature extraction, right? In which field you are applying this deep learning? Deep learning, it's mainly you can apply in all fields like computer vision field, speech recognition, NLP, audio recognition, social network filtering, machine translation, and bioinformatics. So you can apply in all fields in this deep learning neural network concepts. Okay, so this is a basic introduction of deep learning. And before entering into a deep learning, you have to know the concept of neural network architecture, because directly we can't able to enter into a deep learning, right? Because the basic is important. It is a parent. Okay, so you have to know things about the neural network and what are the parameters are required for creating a neural network. So first, in this day, you have to know the basic concepts of neural network and how to implement this neural network. Everything you have to know in this day, then only you can move for deep learning. It will be very easy. You can easily understand the concept of deep learning. Okay, so first of all, you know what is the architecture of neural network. Already everybody we know that the ANN, it's a simulation of our brain, right? So in brain you have a collection of neurons, right? The similar thing in ANN also you have the collection of neurons. See the diagram here. In artificial neural network, you have a collection of neurons in different layers. So see here, you have a 3 different layers: input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. Okay, so these neurons are interconnected like our brain. So our brain also has a millions of neurons. So each neuron receives the information and process the information, and it makes some decision, right? So the similar thing, your neural network also, your ANN also do the same thing. The neurons are collected from the input layer, and then it goes to the hidden layer. In this hidden layer, it will process your data. Okay, after processing, then the data is transferred to your output layer, right? So in that output layer, you are generating a decision, right? You are making a prediction. So that is in the neural network. So the main motto of machine learning is, you have to train your neural net, you have to train your model. That is an important thing, because it is a machine, it's not a human, right? So you give more and more training, then only you can learn anything from your model. So that is an important thing. Important stage in your machine learning model is, you have to give more training, right? Okay, so now come to that parameters. So what is parameters? Parameters is nothing but it's a basic things for creating your architecture. Say, okay, so before you create an architecture, you have to know the basic things. So what are the things? The first one is the neurons, right? Yes, neuron. Without neuron, you cannot able to create an architecture. So neurons, we call it as the perceptrons. It's a basic unit, right? So this neuron, it's collecting the information and processing the information and making a prediction. So the neuron is the basic unit in neural network. Okay. Next, come to the layers. So see, in the previous one, you have a three different layers: input layer, hidden layer, and output layer, right? So in this input layer, you are receiving your inputs. So in what we have to collect information through this input layer only. So you have to collect the information from the input layer, and you process your input. Okay, and then the final output is transformed to your output layer. So the output layer only give a decision, or the output layer only generates a prediction, right? This layer is very important in a neural network, right? And next, come to the weights. So the weights is an important parameter, because this is the main goal of artificial neural network, right? What is the main thing here? You have to find the optimized set of weights. So why you are training your neural network? Because the main important thing is, you have to optimize your weights. Optimize your weights means, then only that is your actual weights. So that, excuse me, please participants, mute your mic. So what is the weights here? The weights is nothing but, actually it is, you're going to train your neural network for getting your optimized weights. So based on that weights only, you can make your prediction, or you can make a decision. So this is the main goal of artificial neural network, right? So weights, it's an important parameter in training your neural network, right? Next, and come to the error. So it is also an optimizing parameter. If you have any error, definitely, sure. If you have any error in your program, definitely you can't get the answer, right? The same thing, if you have any error in your model, definitely you cannot able to get a good prediction. Definitely cannot able to get a good decision, right? So the main objective in your neural network is, you have to reduce your error. So that is also another important factor. Then next, come to the forward pass. Forward pass is nothing but how you are processing your neural network, right? So the main forward pass is nothing but, it is in the forward direction. Forward direction means you are giving an input to the input layer, then it moved to the hidden layer, then only it moved to the output layer. So you are moving in the forward direction. So that kind of processing, we call it as a forward pass, right? And backward pass. So backward pass is nothing but, you are in a reverse direction. You are moving in a reverse direction, right? That is, you are moving from output layer to hidden layer, and hidden layer to the input layer. So why, in what situation you are moving to a backward pass? For adjusting your weights, right? So in training stage or testing stage, in both the stages, you can move your data in a forward direction. You process your network in a forward direction. At what stage? Training or testing stage. But when you are in a error adjustment stage, so error adjustment stage, you are moving in a reverse direction. So the first error you have to adjust in the output layer, then you adjust your error in the hidden layer, then only you can move into the first layer. So adjusting your error in a reverse direction. So this kind of network, we call it as a back propagation model. So a lot of models are available in a neural network. The first forward pass model, it's a perceptron model. It's a simple model, right? In the second backward pass is nothing but a back propagation model, right? So depending upon the processing of a network, you're going to design the NN, right? So these are the basic parameters are needed. Actually, you have a lot of parameters, but see here in another one also you have hyperparameters. So you have two types of parameters. It's a normal parameter and hyperparameters. So it's not only the parameter, you have a lot of parameters are available, but our time is only 3 hours. Today 1.5 hours, and the next day it's 1.5 hours. So within that 3 hours, you cannot able to complete the entire neural network architecture. So here I'm explaining only a certain parameters and certain hyperparameters, because this is an important one thing also, and also have implemented these two parameters in my implementation. So that is the reason here I have listed only a certain parameters and hyperparameters, not a complete list. See, lot of options are available, right? So you have seen what is parameter. And now you come to the hyperparameters. First of all, you know what is the difference between the parameters and the hyperparameters. The hyperparameters, it's actually influence the parameters as you want, right? Influencing the parameters. Why? In what way it will influencing? Suppose here see a lot of hyperparameters here. And one thing is epoch. You take an epoch. Epoch is nothing but the steps. You are repeating your training, right? When you are increasing your epochs, so what happened? Your parameter, that is, you can get the optimized weights. So it is influence the weights, right? Now I am having an epochs 100. So first I have implemented my network with 100 epochs. So I got an accuracy of 86% now. Now I want to increase my accuracy. So what I have to do here? Here I am going to increase the epochs 100 to 200. So after increasing my epochs, now see the accuracy. So accuracy is also increased. So here your hyperparameter is influence your parameters to get an optimized weight. So that is the difference between your parameters and hyperparameters, right? So not only the epoch, here I'm clearly mentioning the epoch only increase your accuracy. I'm not saying like that. You have a lot of hyperparameters here. You have to adjust your neural network, then only you can get an accuracy. So only increasing an accurate epoch, it's not only a factor, right? So just I'm giving an example. Okay. First, you discuss about the hidden layers. Okay. So now see, before hidden layer, you have to see the architecture of neural network, right? See how it will process. You know what is a ANN, right? Now you see the process of ANN. See, first X1, X2, X3. So these are all the inputs, right? And before thing, I'm clearly saying your ANN model, it's a mathematical model. Clearly you understand. Your ANN, it's not a different set of model. It's a purely a mathematical model. So mathematical model means you have to give the inputs only in the numbers, right? But in our real world situation, you don't have only the number type of data. So you have any kind of data. You have a images data, and you have a sound data, and you have a flow type of data, and you have a string type of data. So you have different types of data. But before your NN accepts only numbers. So what you have to do, you have to do the pre-processing before apply into your neural network. In any format, you have to convert into a numerical. That is an important thing. If you have a string, you convert into numerical. If you have a categorical data, you convert into the numbers, right? And if you have an ordinal data, you convert into a numbers, then only you can apply into the neural network. So before that, you have to do the pre-processing. It is a very important stage. And not only that, you have to do a normalization also, or you have to do a scaling also. It is important. Why you have to do the normalization or scaling? Because see, you have a bigger number, okay, have converted into a number, but another problem is your number should be a smaller value. Why reason is you have to each and everything you're going to multiply and sum. That is the thing you're going to do in your just you are multiplying and you're summing your value and you are applying a function. So when you have a bigger value, what happened here the value becomes a very big value and you multiply something, what happened? So on increasing, right? You cannot able to understand such amount of data. So this is the main thing. Before applying into a neural network, you have to do some pre-processing. What is the first thing? You convert into a numerical value and then you do some scaling or normalization. So these two things you have to do, and then only you apply in your neural network, right? So first, okay, now my data is ready. X1, X2, X3 are my data, right? And now you are connecting this input with another neuron. That is your neuron, right? Each neuron is connected with another neuron. In the diagram also I have seen that. So as I told you earlier, it is a fully connected, right? So each neuron is connected with another neuron, right? So you have to give the input. How it is connected? Your neuron is multiplied with the weights, right? See here, what is your summation? Summation is nothing but x1 is multiplied with w1 plus x2 is multiplied with w2 and x3 is multiplied with w3 and so on. So this is a formula you're going to do in a sum. So sum is nothing but you multiply your inputs with along with the weight. Okay. Okay. Now I got the sum up value. After sum up value, I cannot again forward to another neuron. So here in between, before passing to another neuron, you have to do another function. What function you're going to apply? Activation function. So why you are using this activation function? Because it normalizes your values. Okay, I'll explain detailed activation function in the next upcoming slides. Just you know it, what it is. Okay, so first thing, you multiply and add it, you have a sum. After summing your value, you apply on one activation function, right? Then only you have a one value, right? So this value is again transferred to the another network. So this is the way you have to process your entire NN architecture. So just you are receiving, you are adding an information or multiplying some information, and then you are transforming your value, then only it will pass into another neural network. So this kind of process, we call it as a perceptron learning process, right? Okay. So now you understand how neural network, right? Now you come to the hyperparameters. Okay. The main important issue is hidden layers, because you actually you have a three layers, right? Input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. Input layer and output layer, it's easily determined by the programmer. It depends only on your data. For example, now you take up the student, you have a 5 marks, right? Based on the 5 marks only, you are going to decide whether my student is pass or fail. Okay. So what is your input here? Your input is your 5 marks is your input, right? And what is your output? You are going to make a decision whether your student is pass or fail. So it comes under output layer. So but then how many neurons are needed for input layer? 5 neurons, right? Because you have a 5 subjects. So 5 neurons are needed for input layer. Okay. And how many neurons are needed for output layer? Just one output layer is one neuron is enough, because this one neuron predicts either yes or no. So if you have a 1 means it's a person is pass. If you have a 0 means a person is fail. So in output layer, 1 is enough, right? So input layer, input neurons and output neurons, it's easily determined based on your data, based on your problem. So that is not a big issue. The main important issue is the hidden layers and the hidden nodes. It's a very important issue. Why it is? Because, and one more thing I have to say, the neural network, the entire neural network process, it is a trial and error process, because you don't have a standard method. So this is a standard method. Based on this method only you have to follow. That you cannot able to say in a neural network. It's only a trial and error process. So first give something and test something. Oh, okay, it is good. Then, oh, it is not fine means again you have to give some other. You make some change, okay, in your neural network. Then only you can. Then you decide your architecture. So it is only a trial and error basis only. It's not follow any standard method. Not only a neural network. It's the entire machine learning model. It's also the same process, right? All a model cannot fit for all data. Any more it is that is a particular model can fit not all kind of data, right? So your neural network, it's also the same kind. So it is only a trial and error basis. So here you need some startup, right? How I have to fix my hidden layer? It's my question. I have a data. I know the target. But my problem is how to fix the hidden layer. How many neurons are needed? So that is my question. So you need some startup, right? So for this problem, you are going to give some suggestions how to fix the hidden layers for your architecture. The first one thing is come to the hidden layer. How many layers, hidden layers are needed? The first of all, you have to know whether hidden layers need or not. First question. If you want hidden layer means how many layers are needed? That is the second question. How can I decide? So here you have the problem, linear separable problem. Linear separable problem. Your data, it comes under linear separable problem means hidden layer is not needed. AVA, it's not needed. Only input layer and output layer is enough to handle your data. At what situation? If your problem has a linear separable problem. If you don't have a linear separable problem, means definitely you have to keep a hidden layer, right? What is meant by linear separable problem? My question is, what is linear separable problem? Linear separable problem in a simple thing in our language, if else. So if else means it's a linear separable problem. If you have a multiple ifs, that is not a linear separable problem, right? So see, please participants. Okay. So what is your linear separable problem here? It's a language if else. If else condition means now your sample you take a gates. That is the best example usually given. So you take an AND gate and OR gate. What is the criteria for AND gate? If both inputs are 1, then you have an output 1. Otherwise 0, right? It's a simple if condition. If both our inputs are 1 means you have a 1 output, right? You take an OR gate. That is also the same condition. If any one is 1, if any one of the input is 1, then your output is 1. So AND gate and OR gates, it comes under linear separable problem. So just you are having only a 2 criteria. But in our real world data, definitely you don't have a linear separable problem. Okay, you take any kind of data. It's only a simple example for linear separable. But in a real world situation, definitely you don't have a linear separable. You have a linear separable, non-linear problems only. So hidden layer is must for real data. Hidden layer is must for real data. Okay. So hidden layers must means how many hidden layers I have to keep on my neural network. One thing, just give a suggestion. Don't go more than 2 hidden layers. Because when you are increasing a number of hidden layers, definitely your network create a complex architecture. So for any complex problems, maximum 2 hidden layers enough. Okay, so that is my simple suggestion. So don't go more than 1 hidden layers. First, you try to start with 1 hidden layer. Suppose if you have a more loss and more less accuracy means you go and try with another hidden layer. Okay, so then only it is a trial basis. Please don't go more than 2 layer. In any complex situation only you can go for another one. So better you keep on 2 hidden layers in your network architecture. Okay, now the hidden layer is decided. Next, come to the hidden neurons. So how many hidden neurons I'm going to keep in my hidden layer? So here you have some basic thumb rules. The first thumb rule is, see here you have 3 thumb rules. The first one is The number of hidden neurons should be between the size of the input layer and the size of the output layer. It is a one thumb rule. And another thumb rule is the number of hidden neurons should be 2/3 of the size of the input layer plus the size of the output layer. And the third option is the number of hidden neurons should be less than the twice of the size of the input layer. So either you can use any one of the method and you start up your neural network architecture. But this is not the permanent solution. Again and again, I'll repeat you, this is not the permanent solution. Based on trial and error, only you can fix the number of neurons and layers, right? Okay. Now the hidden layer is decided. So my architecture is ready. So I know how many neurons are needed for input layer and how many neurons are desired for a hidden layer and how many neurons for output layer. So now my architecture is ready. Now come to the activation functions. So already I've told earlier what is activation function, right? So activation is nothing but you are transforming your output. You're transforming your sum of value into some other format. That we call it as an activation functions. Why you are transforming? Because you are summing a value means definitely you have a bigger value, right? So again, I'm going to give a bigger value for another neuron means your more and more complex will be created. So what you have to do, you have to transform your value into some smaller values. That we call it as an activation functions, right? So a lot of activation functions are available. So just here I'm listing sigmoidal, ReLU, and softmax because I'm going to use these three activation functions in my program, right? Apart from that, you have a binary sigma, logistic sigmoidal, and exponential function, tangent function, and hardly sigmoidal. So you have a lot of options are available. Usually we are learners, so just you heard the basic things, automatically you can develop into another activation function, right? So now see how activation is processed here in this picture. You're applying an input and then you're giving an input and you're applying an activation function. You're transferring values in data than output, right? So the output values either 1 or 0 or -1 to 1 or 0 to 1 or 0 to 1 or no, my value is my sum of value is a smaller value. So I can keep it as a smaller value also. So you can keep your original values also. So this is the transformation you're going to apply in a neural network. And activation function is needed for all the layers. So in hidden layer also you have to give an activation. Each neuron, not only the layers, each neuron you have to apply the activation function. In output layer also you have to apply the activation function. In hidden layers also you have to apply the activation function. Okay, so activation function is applied in all the layers, right? And come to that, first I will explain what is sigmoidal. Sigmoidal is nothing but you know the formula, it is 1 by 1 plus e power x, right? E power minus x. So that is the formula for sigmoidal function. This function returns two values, either 0 or 1, right? So if you have a binary sigmoidal. Suppose if you have a logistic sigmoidal means -1 to 0 to 1, not 0 or 1, 0 to 1 like that. So that sigmoidal value ranges from 0 to 1. And softmax. So softmax is nothing but actually this softmax you are going to apply in an output layer. So apply an output layer means that output it ranges from 0 to 1. Okay, so it is actually it's a binary pattern. If you have a 0 means it belongs to one class. If you have a 0.2 means you have another class. 0.3 means it's in another class. So based on that value, you are going to assign a class. So mostly softmax you are going to use in an output layer. So it determines the actual output of the class, right? Next come to the ReLU function. So ReLU function is nothing but rectified linear unit. Actually, mostly this function you're going to use in hidden layers. It's a main optimized function in a network. Actually, this function returns either 0 or the original value. So 0 or original value. When it will return 0, if you have a negative value, your sum of is negative. Please participants, mute your mic. Actually, organizer muted my voice. Please. Okay, is it audible? Is it audible, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it's audible.
Okay. So now what is the ReLU function here? So ReLU function returns 0 or original value. So when you have a negative sum of value means it will return 0, or if you have a positive means it keeps the original value. So that is the main use of ReLU activation function. Okay. Next come to the another hyperparameter, that is the stochastic gradient descent. Actually, it is one of the important optimizer. You know what is gradient descent? Actually, it is a slope. We are mathematically using a gradient descent. It's a gradient is nothing but the slope, right? Descent means your slope is decreasing in a manner, in an iterative manner. So decreasing in an iterative manner, that we call it as a gradient descent. Why we are using this optimizer? Because your loss, that is your error, should be minimized in each iteration. That is the important one thing. Otherwise, your network will be converged. Converge in sense, it does not give a parabola shape. It gives some another shape, like once increasing or decreasing, again it will increasing or decreasing, means it does not give the parabola shape. So what it means actually, it means your network is not fit for your data. So there is some problem in your network. So definitely you cannot able to get a good answer from your network. So your network architecture is wrong. So that is the best optimizer. So this optimizer predicts your exact weights because it shows a loss, right? Your loss should be decreased in iterative manner. So first time my loss is some 3.5. So in next iteration, my loss is some 2.5. So your loss should be in a decreased manner. So at some point, your error is minimum. So error is minimum. So in that position, that is your exact weight. You understand here? So when you have a minimum error means that is your optimized weights you are going to select from this training. So this concept we are using it, we call it as the stochastic gradient descent. Okay. And now come to the another hyperparameter. It is a learning rate parameter. Actually, learning rate parameter, it's also a step size. It also a step size. Here, the learning rate, it's updated based on your weights. And it's a value, it ranges from 0 to 1. Okay. Why you have that learning rate? Why you are using that learning rate? One thing you have to know that I have a 10 inputs are here means the 10 inputs alone, it is not used for your network. You need some additional values. You need some additional inputs, right? Then only your network performs well. So your input along with your bias neuron, we call it as a bias neuron. Bias neuron is nothing but an additional input. Okay. So your original input plus your bias input, you have to only the feed into the network. You can get the exact value or you can make a prediction. So similar thing, learning rate, it's for adjusting your weights. When will you adjust your weights? Because you have some error in your network, right? So based on the error, you multiply with some learning rate, then only you can get a new weights. So this is the main thing. You have to adjust your learning rates, right? So, and then selecting a learning rate is also very important because when you have a bigger value of learning rate means automatically your model converges. When you have a too smaller value of learning rate, your process becomes stuck. So you have to select a proper learning rate. That learning rate value, it lies between 0 to 1. So when you are using a learning rate, it's only in a adjusting an error stage, right? And in Keras, you have a method, we call it as ADM, adaptive learning rate. Adaptive learning rate is nothing but your model takes a learning automatically. So you need not give a learning rate. So it is an inbuilt tool, right? So automatically your model selects a learning rate for adjusting your weights. So it is one of the example for tuning your learning rate. Next, come to the another factor, we call it as a momentum factor. Momentum, it is also an additional input. This momentum, it increases your accuracy. Learning rate for error, right? Momentum is for increasing your accuracy, right? So it is also gives a more stable for your network, and the values of momentum, it ranges from 0.9 to 0.99. Okay, so these are all the hyperparameters. So when you are adjusting this parameter, either adjusting your hidden layer or adjusting your epochs. Epochs is nothing but the iterations. Okay, for each training, your data means that we call it as an epoch. Okay, I will explain. Okay, so epoch is nothing but training your data. Each cycle of training, we call it as an epoch. So either you take an epoch, or you can hidden layer, adjusting your hidden layer and adjusting your learning rate and adjusting your momentum network, and everything you are going to tune means definitely you can get your optimized weights. So easily you can make a decision, and your accuracy is also increased in your network, right? So these are the basic things which are needed for creating your neural network architecture. Okay. Next, come to the training and testing. Actually, training and testing, you can apply in all machine learning models, not only in the neural network models. Training and testing, you can apply in all the machine learning models. So what is training? Training is nothing but you know that you are learning your machine. Your machine should learn from your data. So it will take some training, right? So actually, you suppose, see, how much I have to train my network? That is my question. I have 1,000 of data, right? Thousands of data means in 3:1 ratio, 3:1 ratio, you have to go for training. So 750 data you have to apply for training, and you apply 250 data for testing. So what is the difference between training and testing? Training is nothing but you are giving a question as well as answer for that question. So input of your network is both question and answer. That is data and the class label. That is the supervised method. So in supervised method, you can apply your data for training. So you are giving a question, and also you have given the answer also. So you are now your machine understand everything. Okay, so this is the data and this is the result. Now your machine understand everything. Now you go for testing. Testing means you have to give the question only, right? Your machine find out the answer. So that is the purpose of testing. So here in testing, don't give the class names. You give the marks alone. Your machine should predict whether the student has passed or failed. So that comes under testing stage, right? Now, in what ratio you can apply? Now you understand what is training and testing. In what ratio you apply? 3:1 ratio. Don't go. Actually, I'm trained my machine for 25% and I've tested for 75%. Definitely it will not work. Your model gives a less accuracy. So more and more you give your training to your model, then only you can predict the answer with high accuracy, right? And sometimes this is also a better method. What is a better method? Complete 100% of training. Okay, complete, you give 100% of training, and the same 100% of data you go for testing. So that is also you can do. It is also one of the better method. So 100% of data you go for training, and 100% of data, the same 100% of data you're going to apply for testing. So that is also you can do. So here I'm implementing in both ways. Okay, so that is also I have shown in my data. So now you understand the training and testing. Okay, so what is my next come to that? And so next come to that deep learning. See here, the deep learning, I already told that deep learning, it is only a special kind of architectures in neural network model. These are the special architectures: RNN model, that is recurrent neural network model, convolution neural network model, generative adversarial networks, and Boltzmann networks, deep belief networks. So these are all the special architectures in deep learning, right? My question is, in what type of data you're going to apply for the architecture? So just it's a suggestion. Okay, it's not a complete answer. It's not a standard answer. So just I'm giving a suggestion. Suppose you're handling a text processing of data, or you are handling a sentimental analysis, or you are doing some parsing means, you go for a recursive network model. You go for a recursive network model. No, suppose I'm having a language character recognition for a particular language. So that kind of task you're handling means you can go for a recurrent network, right? And third type, suppose you're handling an image, okay, image detection, object detection. So that kind of problem you're selecting means you can go for a convolution network, okay. And speech recognition means you can go for recurrent network. So just it's a suggestion only. So if you are having such a kind of problem means you can choose a correct respective model, okay. And okay, so now the basic parameters and the architecture and everything we have discussed, and I hope that everyone we understand. So now come to the TensorFlow and Keras, right? What is TensorFlow and what is Keras, right? Actually, you're going to implement this architecture in Python. In Python, you're going to implement this complete entire architecture. In MATLAB also you can implement. In cloud also you can implement, right? In cloud you have a Colab. Colab also you can implement. The main why I'm choosing this TensorFlow and Keras means in MATLAB it is not an open source, so it's a licensed version. So you have to pay an amount, right? It's not a small amount. It's a very big lakhs and lakhs only you can purchase a MATLAB. So that is a main important thing in a MATLAB. So now you can have a Python. Python provides all infrastructure in an open source. That is a main advantage in Python. Python has a lot of packages, lots of packages for all purpose it will handle, right? So here that is the main reason for choosing Python is it's open source and you have a lots of package for handling your machine learning models. Okay. What is TensorFlow and Keras? Python, it's nothing but it's a collection of packages or libraries for each and every purpose. So when you're handling an arrays, you go for a NumPy package. When you're handling a machine learning models, basic machine learning models, you can go for scikit-learn. And when you're plotting a graph, you can go for matplotlib package. So depending upon your task, you're going to select a package, right? Similar thing, when you are creating a neural network architecture, you need a package, either TensorFlow or Keras. So it is a special package which is designed for neural network, right? So you can. So that is the main reason for selecting TensorFlow. Normal package will not support your neural network. Scikit will not support your neural network. NumPy it's not support for neural network. So only the TensorFlow and Keras will support your neural network. Okay. What is the difference between these two? Actually, TensorFlow it's a parent, right? So parent means you can design the network and you can work your network in a simple architecture manner. The main important thing is it will not support some hyperparameters for deep learning model. So that is a drawback in TensorFlow. So here you are going to use an advanced version that we call it as a Keras. So Keras supports all type of hyperparameters, network architecture, and everything. It is a revised version, like NN and deep learning, same concept. It's a TensorFlow. It's a kind of parental one, and Keras it's a revised version of a child one. So that when you are using a Keras alone means automatically the TensorFlow is working in your backend. So you need not give a separate command for TensorFlow, right? So only you can select Keras and you can work it in a Keras, right? So next. Yeah, already I have told why Keras. Keras supports a package for a deep learning and you have a high level of APIs, right? So you have a high level of APIs in that Keras. So it is a portable. So these are all the advantages, and also it backend it will support a TensorFlow. So you need not change anything. Automatically it will support the TensorFlow at the backend. Okay. So that is a main thing in Keras. Okay, you can also work in a Colab also. But the main problem in Colab is a cloud one thing, right? If you have a problem, all data is in your you have in your own system. So the deployment is a critical one thing. When you are working in the cloud means the deployment is not a simple task, right? So better you install in your system and you work in your work from your PC, right? So that is the important thing. And now, how you can work in Python? How to install your TensorFlow and Keras? Like, see here, the Anaconda, it's only a better. It's Anaconda. It's a GUI environment. GUI environment. It will support your Python, R, Orange, and everything. So it's a better environment for supporting and compiling your data. Okay, so you have to install your Anaconda from this link, and you can install it. And the main thing is, just I have to say only, see here my system. So after installing your Anaconda Navigator, it looked like this. Okay. Now see here in the left hand side, you have an environment. Left hand side, you have an environment. Here you have a base root. So the main problem in TensorFlow is, in base, you cannot able to work a TensorFlow and Keras, right? So you have to create a new environment. You have to create a new environment for TensorFlow. Then only you can work a Keras under this environment. See here, I have created one more environment, call it as a TensorFlow, right? So under this TensorFlow only you can work a NN models. See, how can I create this environment? See here, I am selecting here create option. Create option means first it will ask a environmental name. I'm giving a TensorFlow as a name, and it will ask a Python version. So the next one thing, it asks a Python version. Here 3.8, 3.7, some list of versions are giving, but you have to select 3.7. Don't please select 3.8. It gives some error in TensorFlow. So you have to select the Python version 3.7. Okay, and select Python version and you apply. So it will take minimum 1.5 hours. It will take for loading your TensorFlow and Keras, everything. So it will take time. So I have loaded everything in advance. So you can do the process. All the steps, it will be in my PPT, right? So after creating an environment TensorFlow, see here, you have installed and not installed, right? You select not installed. Not installed means now the lists are available. So in that list, you select TensorFlow, Keras, and everything, and you apply. Select one by one, not all at the same time. First, you select TensorFlow, apply this package. Automatically, your package is installed. Then you select Keras, you apply it. Then the package is installed. So now I want a NumPy. So again, you select NumPy, select Seaborn, and select Scikit, everything. So select each package and you apply one by one, not all this thing at the same time. Okay. Now my environment is ready. Okay. So after creating an environment, see here. See here in Anaconda Navigator, you have two types of Jupyter notebooks are available. See here, one for base environment and another one for TensorFlow environment. So simply I'm working a Python commands. So you can go for a normal environment, base environment, or scikit learning models and everything. So you can go for a base environment. You work in a base environment. But when you are using either TensorFlow or Keras means you have to go for a Jupyter notebook TensorFlow environment, because this environment alone supports your network architecture. It is exclusive for deep learning. So normal base environment will not support your neural network architecture. Okay, so that is a thing. All of you please keep in mind. You create a separate environment for TensorFlow. Under this TensorFlow only you can work your neural network architecture. Okay. And another important thing is, so now my book is ready for working Python commands, right? Come to my PPT. See here, I'm giving the steps. First, you install Anaconda. Then after installing that, you can have an Anaconda in all programs. Then you go to the environment on the left side and create an environment with TensorFlow. See, TensorFlow and Keras are not working in a base environment. So we should create a new environment. Okay. After installing your environment, you select not installed components and see the list, you have the TensorFlow and you apply it. Then select choose Keras, you apply it. Suppose you want to install other packages, Matplotlib, Pandas, Scikit, Seaborn, and everything. You have to do one by one. Okay. So now you have a new notebook. We call it as a Jupyter notebook, TensorFlow. It's appeared in your programs list. So in that book only you have to work it for neural network, right? So now my environment is ready. And I'm giving a small tip. What is that? Suppose I'm selecting a not installed. The TensorFlow and Keras, it's not appeared in the list. So what can I do? Do one thing, simple way. You uninstall your Anaconda. You uninstall your Anaconda. Please don't go for a pip command, condas install command. Please don't do that. Definitely it will not work. So the better thing is you uninstall your Anaconda and you install again. And you install again. Now you see your environment. You have the TensorFlow and Keras, everything. So don't go for another way. It is the best one thing. So that tip also I'm giving in my PPT. Okay. Okay. Everything is ready. Now we go for implementation. So I hope everyone you understand what is architecture and what are the parameters are required and what tool are needed to run your neural network. So I think hope everyone you understand. So now come to that implementation of network in Keras. Okay. So here we are having 5 steps. The first step is how to define the network and how to compile your network and how to fit your network, evaluate your network and make predictions. First, define your network. I know that everyone you know the step how to create your network, right? So this is this code I'm giving for Keras. One thing. So now I'm going to create 3 layers, right? Input layer, hidden layer, and output layer. So all the 3 layers I'm going to put in a one container. We call it as a sequential container. So first in Keras, you have to create a sequential container. In that container only you add the layer one by one, right? So create a sequential class. It's like a container. Then you add a layer one by one, right? So that is a concept in Keras. Okay. Now you take an example. I'm creating a multi-layer perceptron with 2 inputs, right? With 2 inputs in the input layer and 5 neurons in the hidden layer and 1 neuron in the output layer. Okay, so now I want to create a such architecture. So what is the step here? Model equal to sequential. First we create a container. Okay. Next, model dot add dense of 2 parameters. Here you are having 5 comma input dem equal to 2. What is it meaning? The first 5 denotes the number of neurons in the hidden layer. The first argument is a hidden layer and the second argument is the input layer, right? So it's reversely given. See here, the first argument is a hidden layer and the second argument is the input layer. Suppose in my problem, I don't have a hidden layer. What I have to do? Just you give a input dimensions alone. So don't give a 5. Okay, you understand? So now my input layer is 2 neurons and my hidden layer is 5 neurons and my output layer. Next, you are adding another layer. What is the layer here? We call it as an output layer. So model dot add dense of 1. So now this is the output layer. Okay. So this is a step for creating your network, right? My network is ready. Next, I want to add the activation function for each layers. I already told that for each layer, you need an activation function, right? So what I'm changing here in this code, first I have created a dense of 5 with layer, model dot add. Now I'm activating a ReLU function. So as I told you earlier, what is ReLU, right? So you are adding a ReLU activation function for hidden layers, right? Then model dot add dense of 1. It is your output layer. So what is the activation function you are going to apply? It is a sigmoidal activation function, right? So my question is, why I am ReLU? It is a common one thing, right? That is not a question at all. But sigmoidal, why I am having a sigmoidal in output layer? So you have 3 options. Any problem, it comes under these 3 categories. You take in a real world, you can take any problem, it comes only in a 3 category. The first category, it's a regression category. And the second category, it's a 2-class problem. And the third category is a more than 2-class problem, right? So now I'm giving an example. What is regression category? So regression category means your output gives some numerical value. That means it is a classification and regression. It's a prediction problem. You know that it is a prediction problem. The main difference is regression predicts numerical value. Classification predicts categorical value. That means your regression problem, suppose my savings for 5 years is so much an amount, right? So this is my salary, and 5 years saving it for monthly, I'm saving such amount. Now I want to predict after 10 years, what is my savings, right? My question is, after 10 years, what is my total saving? So here, what you're predicting, you are predicting a numerical value. So that problem comes under regression. And suppose you take a binary classification problem. Same example, whether the student is pass or fail. Here you have the category either pass or fail. It comes only in 2 classes. So that comes under binary classification. So if you have a binary classification, means you can use a sigmoidal activation function for output layer. No, I have a more than 2 classes. I have a first class, second class, distinction, I have no class. So I have a more than 2 classes options. So in that situation, I have to use a softmax activation function. It is like a one hard encoded pattern. One hard encoded pattern is nothing but each pattern you have a code bit. For example, I have a 4 classes, right? So the first class is 0001. Second class pattern is 0010. And the third class pattern is 0100. And the fourth class pattern is 1000. So this kind of pattern, we call it as a one hard encoded pattern. So it comes under softmax, right? So just I'm giving a tips for why you are selecting sigmoidal in this category. So now you automatically understand this model determines only the 2 class problems, because you are adding which activation function here? You're adding the sigmoidal activation function, right? Okay. So now network is ready, activation functions also ready. Now you compile your network. Again, the same thing. Compilation step is what? Model.compile. What is your optimizer? SGD. SGD is nothing but stochastic gradient descent. So you are selecting a stochastic gradient descent as an optimizer. And you are using a 2 metrics. These are the 2, not only these 2 metrics are available, you have a lot of metrics. From confusion matrix, you can use a recall, precision, true, positives, false. So you have a lot of metrics are available, but these are the best 2 metrics to analyze your network, right? So in your compiler, you are selecting a SGD optimizer. SGD is nothing but stochastic gradient descent optimizer, and loss is 1 metric, and accuracy is another metric, right? So this is a way you have to. So you have to compile your network based on stochastic gradient descent and your loss and accuracy. In loss, again, your comes under 3 options: for a regression problem, for binary classification problem, for multi-class classification problem. So if you have a regression kind of problem, means you can use a mere error, MSE. So this MSE, it supports classification also. Okay. And suppose you have a binary class problem, means you can select binary cross entropy. Suppose you have a multi-class classification, means you have to choose a categorical cross entropy. Okay. So this is a thing you have to compile. Okay. Next, you fit for your net. How you have to fit? History equal to model.fit x comma y, batch size, and epochs. X is what? Your inputs, right? Y is what? The fit is for training. The fit network means now you are training your network, right? It is in a training stage. Training stage means what you have to give? You have to give the question and answer. So question is X, answer is Y. Then only your machine learn everything, right? So from this training only it will generate a hypothesis. So model.fit x comma y, batch size, and 100. So X is your input data and Y is your target class, right? And the batch size means I don't want to give a data 1 by 1. I want to give a training for a group of data. So 10. After stretch, you take a 10 value and go for training. Or batch size is 100. Batch size is 100 means you take a hundreds of values at a time and you go for training. So it will increase the given a faster manner. So that is your batch size. And epochs. Epochs is nothing but it's an iteration for training your entire data. Now I'm giving an example. Suppose my data, total data size is 100, right? 100 out of 75 only I go for training. In the first epoch, see, I have 100 epochs here. In first epoch, it will train the whole 75 data. It will take whole 75 data and adjust the weights, everything in one epoch, right? Next, second epoch, good for second epoch. Again, it will take 75 data for training and adjusting your weights. So till how many times it will repeat this process? Because your epochs is 100. So 100 times it will repeat the process for the whole set of data, not the single data. Just you look at it. It's not for a single one. You take a whole set of data for one epoch, right? So that is the thing. Epoch is nothing but the iteration. Okay. Next, come to evaluation process is over. So you created a network and you set an activation function is everything. And third one is, what is it? You compile your network. Now the training process is over. Training process is over in the fourth step. Now come to the fifth step. It is for testing process. In testing process, what you have to give only the question. That is your input alone. Your model predict the answer. So then only you analyze the metric, whether your model predicts a correct answer or not. So predict is what? So predict is nothing but it gives only a inputs. Predict gives only the input. So it will not give a output, right? So prediction is nothing but the testing. Okay. So now the steps are over. I think hope everyone understand and what are the steps for neural network and how you are going to implement in Keras, right? Now come to that implementation. So here I have taken a sample 2 data sets, right? One is the normal categorical ordinal type, it's a numerical data, and another one is the image data, right? See here. Now I've taken a PIMA Indians onset of diabetes from the UCA repository. Okay, it is a binary classification problem. And now see the data set. About the data set, totally how many records in this data set? You have a 768 records in this data set. Totally how many records here? You have a 768 records. And how many attributes? You have 8 attributes along with 1 class variable. So totally have a 9 variables. 8 it's attributes and plus 1 it's a class variable. So now you tell me please, anyone you answer for my question, how many input neurons are needed and how many output neurons are needed? Just you please answer my question. Please put it in the chat. So you please, anyone answer please? One of you answered 9 inputs. Yeah, but the answer is 8 input neurons. Right, one answer correctly. 8 input and 1 for output. Yes, right. Dr. Mahadevi answered good. So 8 input layers and 1 output layer. That is the correct answer because the 9th one is the output class. It is an answer. So what is your question here? The 8 attributes are the question. So 8 attributes are the question. So 8 neurons in input layer. So now I have decided how many neurons are needed. So 8 input neurons for input layer and 1 output neuron for output layer. So I have decided my network. The hidden layer, it's a trial and error process. Don't worry about that. Now it's not a problem. It's a training stage. We learn how to fix the hidden layers, right? Okay. So now see the answer, the question for that answer. Input layer is 8. Number of hidden layers. Now I'm giving one hidden layer, right? Hidden nodes. 12 hidden nodes. I'm going to select 12 hidden nodes and one output layer. And what is activation function? So here I have two activation function. ReLU for hidden layer and sigmoidal for output layer, right? And what is the loss metric? I'm going to select binary cross entropy. As I told earlier, when you have a binary classification means you have to select the loss binary cross entropy, right? What is my optimizer? ADAM optimizer. ADAM is why it's for adaptive learning rate. So that is your optimizer. And next, metrics. Yes, I'm going to choose a metrics accuracy. Automatically, loss will come in a stochastic gradient. So these are the two metrics I'm going to evaluate. I think everyone, you understand the architecture. Now you go to the Jupyter notebook. How I have implemented this data set, right? See, sorry, it is a fashion MNICT. So now I'm going to diabetes data set. Okay. So now it's clear.
And it is not visible.
Please change into presenter mode. Actually, it is not in. Yeah, 1 minute. So I've changed into yeah, 1 minute, please.
It's in
Now it is visible to you. Now it is visible.
yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yes.
Okay. See here. This first of all, you see the data set. What is diabetes data set? So this is my data set, Prima Indians diabetes data set. Actually, it is in the UCA repository. See here. Totally you have a 9 columns, right? So totally you have a 9 columns. The first 8 columns are your attributes, right? Your input data. Based on that 8 features, it's going to predict whether the person has a diabetes or not, right? So you have the answer for the, well, either 1 or 0. So this is your diabetes data. And don't worry about what are the 8 attributes. So that is not you're going to discuss now. Now you come to the program. See here. So first step, you have to import the package, right? So what is the thing? Keras.models import sequential. So you have to create a import a package for sequential. As I told you earlier, what? So as I told you earlier, all the layers in a sequential container, so that you have to import that package. And dense is nothing but the layer, right? And I need a confusion matrix. Finally, I have to show in my accuracy in a confusion matrix, so that this confusion matrix, it's in a scikit-learn package, right? It's not in a Keras, it's in a scikit-learn package. So you have to import all the packages, right? Next, data set. So you have to load your data set. So load data set, it's now you're going to transfer into an array. It's a two-dimensional array. Actually, see, it is an Excel, it's a two-dimensional array, right? So NumPy, it's a numerical program. So you're going to load your data in a two-dimensional format. Okay, now you have a data set. So CSV, Pima Indian Diabetes data set, it's loaded in a data set. Now come to that X and Y. So what is your X? X is nothing but the questions. What is your question here? The 8 features. So here I have to, because in your data set you have a 9 columns, right? But I want to store only the 8 columns of data, because in your X, you have to store only the attributes, only the features. So this is a syntax. So first, generally two-dimensional array, you have a one thing first represent the row and second thing represent the column, right? Row, I'm not mentioning anything. So that means total 768 records you are going to store in X. It's not any restricted anything. So total 768 records you are going to store in X. But how many columns alone? 0 to 8. 0 to 8 means the 0, it's a first column. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not 8. It does not include 8. Right? So it will take only the 7 columns. So 0 to 7. So 0 to 7 means you have the 8 features. So that features alone you're going to use an X. Right? So now question is ready. And why? Why is your target? So which column is your target column? The last column is your target column. So you have to select only the 8th column. So see here, you take all the values of 8th column alone. That is in your Y. So Y is your target class value. I think hope you understand. So X, it's your question. It's nothing but your 8 features. And Y, it's nothing but your class. Right? That last column, 9th column. Okay. Now data is ready. Now create a sequential class. I already told you create a sequential class. Then see here, add dense 12. What is the meaning? You are having a hidden layer also, right? In hidden layer, you have a 12 neurons. 12 neurons in hidden layer and 8 input features. First layer, you have 8 input features. And for hidden layer, you are applying a reload activation function, right? Next. What is the next step? You are adding an output layer. So model dot add dense of 1 activation equal to sigma. Yes, your output is just only 1 neuron, because you are going to predict whether the person has a diabetes or not. So just 1 neuron is enough, right? So dense 1 output neuron. And what is the activation function you are going to apply? Sigmoidal activation function, right? Next. Oh, sorry. And model.compile. What is the next step? Model.compile loss. So what is your optimizer you're going to select for loss? It's a binary cross entropy, because it is a binary classification problem. So you're going to select a binary cross entropy for loss. And what is your optimizer? You're going to choose an Adam optimizer for learning rate. And what is your metrics? You're going to select accuracy metrics, right? Next, you fit. Now fit step for training. I already told fit, first you are training your network, then only you can test your network, right? So first you have to give a training, more and more training, then only you give a better result. So what is the step for training here? Model.fit x comma y and epochs equal to 100 and batch size equal to 10. So now your model becomes trained. Okay. Next, you are evaluating your training. You are evaluating your training step. So what are the two metrics I'm going to derive? Loss and accuracy. So loss and accuracy I'm going to derive from the training stage. So then only I can understand whether my model fits the data or not. So I want to know the architecture, right? I want to know the performance of my architecture. How can I know the performance? So based on this metrics only, I have to understand my performance, whether my architecture is good or not, right? So here I have to select the two metrics, loss and accuracy, based on evaluation. Evaluation is nothing but in a training stage, I have to derive the metric parameter loss and accuracy. Okay. Now I am printing this loss and accuracy. Each step it will be printed. Okay. So training process is over. Now you come to the testing process, right? In testing process, you are using a which statement here? Model dot predict of X. So what is it meaning? At what ratio you are training and testing here? Anyone please answer at what ratio I'm going to training and testing? Is there any ratio I mentioned for training and testing? No. So here I have taken complete set of data for testing. So 100% I'm going to train and 100% I'm going to test. So it's the second method. So what is the name method? It's the second method of training and testing, because I'm 100% I'm going to take for training and 100% I'm going to take for testing. Okay. So model dot predict of X gives the probabilities, right? So for each testing, it gives a probability values. Okay. And then that it gives some probability, right? Probability in the sense, first I'll take a first data, right? After inputting the data into the network, I'm getting an answer 0.8 something, right? 0.8 something. So what it means, 0.8 is the probability value of assigning a class into one, of assigning a class into one, because 0.8 you round off, and what you get, you can know one value. So one means the person has a diabetes. So that probability value, it's returned for every data. So that you are going to store in the probabilities, right? So see here, the probability is something numerical value, right? 0.8 something, but I want to answer for 1 or 0. So for each probability, you have to round the value. Then only I can get the answer 1 or 0. So that is in the step. So what is in the step here? First, I'm getting the probabilities of each data. Then what is in the second step? I'm going to round off the value for each probability. Okay. So that is in the step. Finally, the answers are stored in predictions, and the answers are stored in predictions, right? Okay. Now see the accuracy here. What is the testing accuracy? What is the next step? I'm comparing the accuracy with the predictions. So already I have a tested values in Y, right? In Y, you have the class values. You understand the concept, right? Predictions equal to Y. Predictions is equal to Y means prediction is nothing but actual output you are going to derive from your network. Yes. And Y is a target output. Y is what? It's a target output that is already, it's in your data. So now it will compare these two outputs. So then only it predict the accuracy. You understand here? So comparing your actual output and target output. So actual output is nothing but the output which is derived from your network at the testing stage. And target output is nothing but it is a supervised problem. So you have the target output. It's in your data. Okay. So that is in your Y. So accuracy equal to lambda dot prediction. And finally, you print that accuracy. Suppose I want to view my weight, because that is the main goal of NM, right? What is the main goal? Please, participants. Which of your mic, please? So finally, you print the weights, right? So now see the output of this program. How many epochs I have given? See here. In the first epoch, so I have given 100 epochs, right?
അങ്ങനെ കുനിഞ്ഞിരിക്കാതെ എന്ത് എന്ത് വന്നെ
So actually, see here, 100 epochs I'm giving, right? In the first epoch, it will train the whole 768 data, right? Whole 768 data, and it returns 2 metrics. Please, some of you is talking backside. So now it will return the 2 metrics. See here, the loss and the accuracy. So what is the loss here? 11 point something, right? 11 point something is your loss, and accuracy is 5 point something. 0.5500 in the first epoch. Now see the second epoch. Again, it will train the whole 768 data. And what loss it will return? 5 point something. And your accuracy is 6 point something. So what you learn from here? Your loss is decreasing step by step. It is a stochastic gradient descent. So what do you mean finally that? So what we conclude here? Now your model is working well for this data. See here, the loss is increasing 5 point something, next 3 point something, 2.5 something, 2.10. So now your loss is decreasing, right? See your accuracy is increasing. Your accuracy is increasing. So at the end of the 100 epochs, see here, the end of the 100 epochs, final, the loss is average, right? The total average of the loss is 0.53. And the total average of accuracy, it's 74.22%, right? So this is the answer for your problem. So 74.22%, it's your accuracy of this network, right? If you want to increase your accuracy, so what step you have to do? The one thing is better, you just change your architecture of the network, right? You adjust your learning rate, you adjust your epochs. Now its epochs is 100. You change into a 200. Something you change. You see the accuracy. If it is an improving means, okay. Now it's not improving your accuracy. Just it's go on decreasing means, what you have to do in the next step, you adjust your hidden layers or hidden neurons. So one hidden layer, it's not enough for this problem, I think. So you have to do what? You have to add one more hidden layer and add hidden neurons. So these are all the solutions for increasing your accuracy, right? And so finally, prediction accuracy. It's a testing accuracy. For the first one, 74.22% is training accuracy. And the last one, prediction accuracy, 74.22 is, it's for testing accuracy. So both accuracy you have. Because I'm trained and test for 100% of data, right? So same accuracy is coming. And now see here, these are all the weights. The first weight is totally you have how many neurons in 12 neurons in hidden layer, right? Input layer is 8. So 8 into 12 something, wait, 16, 96 something, 96 weights you want here, right? See here. So you have a 96 weights for hidden layer. And output layer, how many? 12 into 1, right? So you have a 12 weights. So that 12 weights are here. So this is the final optimized weights for your problem. I think hope everyone understand how you process your neural network in Keras, right? So these are the 5 basic steps. Now I wanted the confusion matrix. So I have already imported a confusion matrix. Just I'm show the confusion matrix for testing. See here. In confusion matrix, I think you know true positive, true negative, true positive. This is a true positive, and this one is true negative, false positive, and false negative. So how totally 768 records. Out of 768, how many predictions are correct here? 476 plus 105, it's a correct answers. The other 163 and 24, it's predicting wrong in from your network. So you have to change, some adaptations are needed for your network, right? So that is in your confusion matrix. And X dot shape. So what is your X? You have a 768 records with 8 columns, right? Then X 0 into 8 means you have a 768 records with 8 columns. And Y dot shape is nothing but just you have a 768 records with 1 column, so that it's 768, right? And probabilities. And probabilities is what? What is probability here? It will return the value. So 768 comma 1. It's your accuracy, right? So that is your prediction probability. And see here, model dot summary. This is your entire architecture model. The first layer is 12. 12 in sense, you have a 12 neurons in hidden layer and 1 neuron in output layer. Right? What is the next column? Parameters. The parameters is nothing but the number of weights from input to hidden. So totally how many parameters? See here, input you have a 8, right? Hidden you have a 12. 12 neurons. So totally you add all the number of weights. So 12 into 8, some 96 it's coming. But here you have a 108. How it comes 108? Because for each neuron, you are going to add additional input that we call it as a bias input. So extra 12 bias inputs are added with your parameters. You understand? So parameter is nothing but the number of weights from one layer to another layer. So here 8 it's an input layer and 12 it's a second layer. So 12 into 8 something, you have 96. Along with 96, you have an additional 12 more weights. So that is it 108 layers, right? And second also 12 to 1. From hidden to output, you have a 12 weights. But you are adding a one more additional bias neuron. So that you have a 13 parameters. So totally how many parameters? How many weights you have? 121 weights. Okay. So this is your model summary shows in your data set. I think time is over. So now I'll stop here. In the next class, so tomorrow's session, I'll handle with image data set. Handle up the image data set, and also I've explained the CNN. Okay. So parallelly, I'll do everything, right? So if any doubt, you please put in the chat. So now I'll stop my presentation here. So any doubt? Okay. Yeah. Why did we take 12 neurons? I already told the hidden layer, selecting a hidden layer and selecting a hidden neurons, it's a trial and error. But I have given some thumb rules, right? So based on the thumb rule only, I can fix the 12 neurons in hidden layers.
Ma'am, I have a question, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, suppose if you wanted to add for something else, like parameters has been fixed, right? So when I give some new data, and if you wanted to know about the either the person gets affected by these values, then how come I can check it out?
Yeah, please pardon. Your voice is breaking.
Yeah, ma'am. So total of 768 rows are there, no, ma'am, in the data set.
Yes, right.
Yes, ma'am. Suppose, for an example, if I'm going to choose another row, which is being taken as a one that I want to test with. So can I make this? Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, that. Yeah. I already told.
No, apart from
you
the
can
rows
split
that
your testing.
No, that is not
You can
the case.
split your testing.
Okay,
because here in testing stage, you have taken a 10,100 records, right? So
yes,
that is the one method. But I want to predict only one data. So that is also can do. I will explain in the next class. So I have explained, I have two manners. One is in ratio manner, or another one is a complete manner, right? Okay. So in the next session, I will explain how to split your data for testing. So in the next session, I will do it. Okay.
Thank you.
Single data also you can test. That is also possible. It's not one. Okay. And
Yeah, ma'am, there is one of the question.
Explain learning rate. Yes.
Hello, ma'am. Can you
yes,
explain
yes.
overfitting?
Yeah. See here, it is actually main important issue in a neural network. Not only in a neural network, it's overall a machine learning problem. It's overfitting and underfitting, right? This overfitting and underfitting, it's based on two metrics. One is bias and another one is variance. Actually, it is not a bias neuron. It's a different one. Bias neuron. Bias, it's a neuron. Here, bias is a metric. Why bias? Bias is nothing but now I'm training 500 data, right? So, so for example, you take you have thousands of data, 750 for training. Okay. Now your model, it's good for 750 and it show an accuracy of 90%. It's good for training.
ma'am.
But when I go for testing, what happened? The 100 data, it's not suited for testing. It gives only an accuracy of 50%. So what I have to predict here, the problem is you have a high variance, low bias. So low bias means training is good, testing it's not good. So that is high variance. Testing it's not good means it's high variance. Training it's good means low bias. So when you have a low bias, high variance, that problem we call it as a overfitting problem. Your model, it's fit for training, not fit for testing. But underfitting means your model does not fit for training also. Just in the training stage, it shows only a 50% of accuracy. Then how it performs for testing? Definitely not. That problem, it's underfitting problem.
Okay. I think we can use 100% data for training and testing, right?
Yeah, it is one better method. It's one better because your model trains well, right? That is the reason. Your model trains well.
So what about the validation, ma'am?
Yeah, the validation in sense, actually it is also one of the method for a training and testing. It is also a kind of testing, it's validation. Some 0.2 you can give or 0.3 you can give for validation. That means your model, it's trained for unseen. Actually, it is also comes under training. Validation, it comes under training, but it does not take the target class. In the during training stage, it does not take the target class. It's only depends on the features. It will assign the target class. So that is the difference. In training, it will take, actually training means what? Takes question and answer, right? That is for training. But validation comes under training, but it will take only the questions, not the answer for certain samples. Suppose you are mentioning 0 to 0.2 means that 0.2% of samples, it will take only for training without taking an answer. So that kind of validation, we call it as a test. It's also another type of metric.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, again, Aruna Devi ma'am asking how to design the hidden layers and number of hidden nodes. It's a trial. I have already given the thumb rule also. Based on the first, because the startup, it's a only issue. In neural network, where I have to start, whether hidden is needed or number of neuron is needed. So that is my important question. So no one can answer for this question. Just you have to start up with the basic thumb rules I have given in my slide, right? And learning rate, some of you, what is learning rate? Actually, it is an additional input for adjusting your weights, because adjusting weights based on error. So what error it's coming? Okay, you have to do the process in the reverse direction. So only error, you cannot adjusting the weights. You need some additional parameter. That additional parameter, we call it as a learning parameter. So you are going to multiply your error with the learning rate, then only you can get your new weights. So from this new weights only you can go for again training, right? So that is a learning rate. I think I've answered all the questions. ReLU activation function, some of you asked. I told the ReLU means it gives two values. One is your sum up value is negative means it will return 0. Your sum up value is negative means return 0. Suppose your sum up value is positive means it will retain the same positive value. So that is the purpose of ReLU activation function. 12 neurons. In my problem, I have taken 12 hidden neurons. It's only a trial basis only. It's based on the thumb rule only, I have assigned the 12 neurons. Definitely, suppose I'm increasing my hidden neuron. Now the accuracy is 74 only. When adjusting the hidden neurons and hidden layer, definitely my accuracy would be increased to 80%, 85%, 90%. The activation function, it's also how to select activation function. It is also a transforming value. You want to transform for 2 classes. You want to transform for many classes, or you want to transform the original value. So in that way only you have to select your activation, right? So I think I have answered all your questions. And we will discuss in the next class. Suppose if you have any doubts, we'll discuss in the next session, right? Yeah,
Thank you,
activation
Priya ma'am.
function is, sorry, one last question is whether activation function is applicable for all hidden. Yes, for each neuron in hidden layer, you have to apply the activation function. Either hidden layer or output layer. You have to apply the activation function, then only you can proceed the another layer. Okay. So I thank you participants and organizers. We will meet you in the tomorrow session.
Thank you, Priya ma'am, for a wonderful session. You have started the session with the deep learning, and all the participants are given a very positive feedback, and they have got a very clean idea about the deep learning and how to code it and how to implement TensorFlow. And most of the research peoples and we the staff members have the problem in installing the TensorFlow, but your session has given a more idea how to install this TensorFlow and work with the Anaconda. Thank you so much for your session, ma'am.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Shall I leave, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am, you can leave, ma'am. Dear participants, today we don't have the feedback link, and we have marked the attendance for the participants, those who have actively participated. And for the participants, those who have given the answers for the ma'am